even touching the basketball. You know, it's just your body remembers it. So a lot of the things that we suffer as a community, the reason why we can't come together is not all your fault. Now I know for the past 20 or 30 years we always hear people saying, no, black people take more responsibility. A lot of time the person that's afraid of your power and what you're going to present to the world and create competition for him, he the one that's that wants you to have that mindset. The person that doesn't want to see you compete, that's saying that yeah, you just not working hard enough. Because that's a defeative position to take. No, somebody causes me some problems, and when I get where I need to go, I'm gonna make sure they take some responsibilities for the problems they caused me. Just wait till I get strong enough. That's how I was. I wasn't mad that I lost the fight. I'm thinking about the next fight. I'm not, I'm not going to deny that I lost, but I'm looking for the one that I'm gonna win, and that's what I got plans on. And as a community and as a people, we all winners, and it's all in our soul, and it's all planned, and we see the evidence before us, and it's undeniable. And we got people wiser than us, smarter than us, more powerful than us, that's watching us and making plans. But as a Muslim, we know that Allah say, they plan and He plans, and He's the best of planners.
That's right.
And we're evidence of that. So, praise be to Allah. Happy Savior's Day. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't be remiss. I know she didn't come here to speak, but she can come and greet us. Our editor, Sister Aisha Mustafa, is here, and we got room on the program. She can actually talk to us as long as she like to, and I'm really enjoying this. But she Imam Mohammed, I remember she brought her in as like a hero, because when he came in, he had a number of problems. Everybody was a problem or a burden on him, or somebody that he had that wasn't good for the community. These people he loved and respected. But Aisha was a breath of sister, our editor, Sister Aisha. She was Mustafa at the time. You still use Mustafa? Yeah, Sister Aisha Mustafa. Alhamdulillah, and that's wisdom in that. That's wisdom in that. You know, I went into business, and my business has evolved, and my life has evolved. My residence moved, but I still got that same phone number. I ain't no fool. But if you could come up and greet us, I'm going to sit down. Now, I've enjoyed myself, and I'm looking forward to the banquet this evening, and I thank you all and appreciate you all. Without you all, there would be no Mosque Cares without your support. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Allahu Akbar. Anybody got donations?
Assalamu alaikum. Well, Brother Wallace, you're bringing tears to my eyes. I didn't bring tissue today.
Don't get me started.
Go get us some tissue.
Praise be to Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Brother Wallace Muhammad II, to the Mosque Cares staff and supporters, including Sister Irene and Brother Salahuddin, thank you for inviting me here. This has been a beautiful weekend, and we're only 2 days into it, and we have a lot to carry away with us. You know, there's a saying that wherever a Muslim resides, wherever you go, you're supposed to leave your location better than you found it. And if you don't improve your environment, your circumstances from when you found it, then you're not Muslim. And I can say already, we will have left this place in better condition and a better spirit than when we got here. We've healed a lot. We reconciled a lot of differences. We're coming back to our core selves of what our ancestors expect of us. And you know, when Imam Muhammad came into office a few days after his father's passing, and you know, the expectations that the Nation of Islam was going to fall apart, and you know his comments on that first Savior Day after his father's passing, he said, We will not let the winds of emotion not even shake the curtains on the window. And as Muslims coming through that experience with the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Imam W.D. Muhammad's leadership, you know, one of our orders was that a Muslim takes responsibility for all the property around him and on his post. And a Muslim does not leave his post until he's properly relieved.
That's right.
And in a time when people said we didn't have the Islam, we didn't have the correct Islam, but we had the correct direction.
That's right.
Allah gave us somebody that was not going to use us as their pawn.
That's right.
And not fill us with another hatred on top of the hatred that we already had.
That's right.
Would not put salt into our wounds that we already had. Those are the kind of leaders that Imam gave, that Allah gave us, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Imam W.D. Muhammad.
That's right.
They didn't take advantage of our situation. They didn't exploit us. They gave us healing medicine. They gave us healing teachings. Our history, of course, we know, started at the beginning of God's creation. We claim Adam and we claim Eve. We claim Hawa. Whatever she went through, we went through. Imam Muhammad taught us those were our first parents. And he also explained to us women that it wasn't our fault that Adam fell. So he lifted a lot of burdens from us as he carried us through our transitioning period. He said Adam forgot what God had commissioned him to do, and therefore he slipped, but he also repented.
That's right.
We as a people, some of us just forgot, some of us were taken out of our nature, but it is God who can restore us. And when we went through that plantation, Whitney plantation, I was born in Mississippi, and we got a civil rights museum in Mississippi that we just went through. And you know, each step you take, it gets heavier and heavier, where you almost have to hold your head in your hand to keep moving. Because in that museum that just opened in December, we walked through the murders of Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner, the 3 civil rights young men, all in their 20s, that were in the forefront of the movement to get us to register, just to register to vote. And why was it so important that we registered to vote? Because it was more African Americans in Mississippi than there were white people. If we ever had a 1 vote per man, we would have dictated who our leaders would be. But instead of giving us that human dignity, they would ask our fathers, our grandfathers, you want to vote? Then tell me how many beans in this jar.
Right.
You want to register to vote? Tell me how many bubbles of soap in this bar of soap. In this Whitney plantation, one of the things that stood out, everything stood out, but something that just grasps you is the focus on the children that were enslaved. They have the replicas of children all over the plantation. And in making the replicas, they said the pictures that they had and the narrations that they found, they replicated these children as close as possible to the original children on the plantations. Except for one thing, they did not give any of them eyes. And you know how you say the eyes are the mirrors of the soul? They didn't want us to be captured in that state of existence. They didn't want our souls to be captured as children in that state of slavery. Although we had to remember that we were in fact enslaved, and not just old people, not just the people that came over on the ships, but our children themselves were enslaved. We heard a lot come before, and all the things that were coming up in me individually as I heard for you is we have to keep the torch lit. We can't let it hit the ground. If one of us succumbs or falls short, someone has to step up and take the torch. You don't have time to cry about me. You just have to take the torch and keep moving forward. That's our responsibility. You know, even in nature, Imam Muhammad used to point us to nature. If you want to know what God is saying to you, look at nature. When the Quran told us to read, it was telling us to read nature. It wasn't telling us to read a book. The Quran wasn't a book yet. Allah said, read in the name of your Lord. Prophet Muhammad was illiterate when it came to book learning. But you could study nature as scientists have done. And when you study the birds, you know, when they have formation, when birds fly in formation, the lead bird might get ill or tired. The lead bird might fall back. The whole formation does not fall apart. Another bird comes up front and fills the gap and keeps the formation while that bird is given relaxation and an opportunity to recover. And then it's also significant that it's clocked into that bird where he's going and how to get there. Even as a newborn, they know what that migration route is. You don't teach them that. We talked about legacies, and the concept of Sankofa is in our history. And the concept of Sankofa was, you have to look back. Not that you pining for the past, not that you can't let go, but you look back to see where you come from, so you can make a correct charting of your path in front of you. So you look back to move forward. And the Sankofa bird is a bird that's standing with his feet forward, but his head is turned over his back. But his feet is pointed in the direction he's going. Imam W. Muhammad pointed us to our prophets and the progression of prophets, starting with Adam. And then he told us our second father was Abraham. And of course, when we talk about Abraham, we have to talk about Hagar. We know Sarah. It's all good. We understand Sarah's position, but we have to talk about Hagar. Hagar is our mother too. Hagar represents the wife that was put out of the home with the newborn. But God did not forget her. And in fact, the Islamic tradition, the existence of Mecca itself, comes back to the existence of Hagar and her infant child, Ishmael, who was separated from his father. She was separated from her husband. She was put in a barren land, but God did not forget her. And as Abraham was leaving her in the desert with her child, and she ran behind him, and she finally realized that he's really going to leave. And so she says, "Is this what your God told you to do?" And his only response is yes. And so her resignation in herself was, well, your God will provide for us. And we talk about the running of Hagar 7 times between the two small mountains. She's running. And she's, in case I talked about Sarah, but Hagar was black. Hagar's a black woman. She's running. And she's looking for provisions in this barren land for her infant child. Not a kid that can run behind her. An infant child that she has to leave in the sand. And she's going back and forth, and she goes 7 times. And Imam Fahim Shuaib's daughter does a rendition of Hagar running. I mean, she does a whole skit. And you have to clear out a part of the aisle for her. And she literally takes off running. And she comes back running. And then after her resolve, she runs slower, and she's looking more deliberate. Maybe I missed something the first time. Maybe it's on this side of the road. Maybe it's on that side of the road. And she keeps doing that for 7 times until she resolves, it's nothing here. And she comes back to her child, resigned for whatever the outcome would be. Some say it was Ishmael's heels in his crying, in his hunger. A crying baby in the sand, that his heels were hitting the sand, and the water gushed up, that we now today call the well of Zamzam. The water broke forth from the sand. Others say that Hagar was visited by the angel, and the angel pointed to her, back to her child, and the angel's wings struck the sand, and the water came up. But to this day, the well of Zamzam still flows. There was nobody out in the desert but Hagar. When caravans come through the desert, they're looking for water. They come up on Hagar and this baby at a stream of water, and they ask her permission. Can we have some of your water? And from her and the well and the caravans grew Mecca. And the water of Zamzam is there today. And any Muslim that makes Hajj, the once in a lifetime journey that you are supposed to make, you have to run through the footsteps of Hagar in your Hajj. God did not forget her. We talked about Malcolm, and we talked about being incarcerated. You know, when William Penn started the penitentiary system in the United States, as a Quaker, his focus was on penitence. This is supposed to be a time for you to repent. He didn't intend for this to be a warehousing. It wasn't supposed to be cruel and unusual punishment. An example of what repentance looks like is Malcolm. Malcolm went in prison a broken man, a deviant soul, taking on the ways of the world. And he met a man in prison who had him to meet a man who gave him back his dignity. We talk about Malcolm, we talk about Muhammad Ali, we talk about Imam Mohammed, we talk about Minister Farrakhan, and then a brother wrote a book, and he said, you know, it was a man behind all these men. And he named it the man behind the men. We don't give the Honorable Elijah Muhammad enough credit.
That's right.
And for whatever reason, people think they knew him. They didn't know him the way we do.
That's right.
They want to tell us he's drenched in shirt. He's a kafir, you know, that disbeliever. But they didn't know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad the way we knew him and the way we were told about him from his son, Imam W.D. Muhammad, who dignified him and called him a social reformer. Not a prophet, but a social reformer who used whatever he could have in his grasp to improve the plight of the African American in our condition. And you know, he used to say that he could solve the problem of the white man, just give me all the African Americans in 6 states. And he was fertile states, southern states, fertile states, and he would solve their problem. Allah has blessed us with racial healing, again, primarily through our leadership, Imam W.D. Muhammad. Imam Muhammad used to tell us to think. Think, for thinking is powerful. Imam Muhammad encouraged us to be that solid wall that a Muslim is supposed to be. In our prayer, in our rituals, it demonstrates how you're supposed to be with each other. You're supposed to stand shoulder to shoulder, toe to toe. And as it was said, don't let the devil get between you.
Right.
That's for brothers and sisters. I was supposed to talk about the Muslim Journal.
You are. That is the Muslim Journal.
And that is the Muslim Journal. All praise be to Allah. Our newspaper, it is the successor to the Muhammad Speaks. Of course, when Imam Muhammad came into office, he came in with a strategy and a purpose. And that was to carry us beyond the Nation of Islam days. He knew his father had a job to do, which was to clean us up, to restore some dignity within us, to make sure we could hold our heads up high and look a white man in the eye, that we wasn't shuffling anymore, we wasn't stepping off the side of the street for anybody. We felt equality with any human being that walked the earth. He knew that's what his father had to do for us, the social reformer.
That's right.
Imam Muhammad said, now it's time to take us further. In essence, what he said was, now, don't forget your share of this earth.
That's right.
And the earth under your feet is the United States of America.
That's right.
He reminded us of what our foreparents had invested in this country. And he said, don't let anybody take your share of this America. And he demonstrated it when he picked up the American flag.
That's right.
Because, of course, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was to the point where he didn't recognize other governments. Imam Muhammad said, we've come this far, now we got to go farther. Pick up this flag so that you can demand your share. Once you know you're a part of something, you can demand something in it. If you're responsible for a part of it, then that's yours. We're not going to let anybody take from us what we have built. Taking this country from us is like trying to wring out the blood, sweat, and tears of your foreparents. You can't do that. You can't collect all their bones at the plantation. We're talking about whether people were buried there or not. And someone mentioned, they said, well, you know, it's technology now. You can just send a drone over the earth, and you can tell where the bones are, the dry bones. You can tell where the dry bones are. Wherever they are, we're going to leave them in peace and let them rest. We're not going to try to collect them in the context of, I got to leave, therefore I'm going to take my ancestry with me. Y'all can have this country. No. This is ours. Internally or externally. Threats within or threats without. We're not going to give up our share of this country. We're not going to try to start all over again somewhere else. Our mother, Sister Claire Mohammed, November 2nd, 2017, she would have been 118 years old. For those who don't know, it was Sister Clara who introduced Elijah Muhammad to Farad. It was Sister Clara that was looking for some resources to help improve the plight of her African American husband that was straight up from Sandersville, Georgia, in the Black Bottom, Detroit. There was a lot of drinking going on and no jobs. So she went home and told her husband, I heard this silk peddler talking about where we came from that was not taught in your schools. Nobody told us where we came from. They gave us Phyllis Wheatley that told us we should be proud to be a slave because we came from the black continent. They didn't tell us about Mansa Musa and Songhai and Timbuktu, that's a greater learning institution in Harvard, Yale, and Stanford. They didn't tell us about those circumstances that we came from. And once you realize where you came from, you can understand why we like gold. When you have the Wangara tribe that just wore gold, just you know, and of course, when the Caucasus people came down and saw us all relaxed, not having to struggle much to get food, you got warm climates and you wearing all that glitter, it's enough to make people angry. Sister Claire Muhammad represents the mother of the indigenous Muslim community. And I'm going to close out with a poem on her. And it's written by her granddaughter. I would try to just say it in words, but Layla, your sister says it so well, I'll just read it. We don't try to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already done it well. Layla writes, as we recall the shared story, the officer knocking at the door, knock, knock, she opened the door with moral courage, saying, I'll die dead as this door before I have you teach my children. She knew that God had trusted the children to her, and she should give them to no one. Our dear Umi, beautiful Rose. She was the first to receive on her heart and in her intellect the uplifting messages of W.D. Farad, the mysterious stranger her girlfriend invited her to hear. Our dear Umi, beautiful Rose, the daughter of a Baptist preacher grounded in the knowledge of a higher power, her strong love and spirit moved her to tell her husband about this message. They attended the next meeting together. She walked in as a woman seeking to save herself and her family, and when she left, they were hand in hand together believers. And allow the one God, Muslims submitting to the one God on the straight path of living a righteous life, Islam. Our dear Umi, beautiful Rose, on the move, freedom, justice, and equality. Black men, black women, and black families, and then incarceration, Milan, Michigan, she was ready with moral courage, making the moves to continue the movement during the 13 years absence of her husband. Our dear Umi, beautiful Rose, She, the Ummi of the Ummah, rose to the occasion, protecting her husband's interest in his absence. She, the womb that gave birth to a new community with a new mind and a new language. We continue in elegance, beautiful strength, fueled with the life of the rose, standing on moral courage, as you did and continue in the good of you and all our leaders and pioneers. You may rest peacefully, for we are your roses. Sister Clara Mohammed, we reverence you and pray you have the highest place in the next life. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Let's give our editor of the Muslim Journal, Sister Aisha, another round of applause. All right, how y'all feeling?
Great.
Good. We got about another 30 minutes, so everybody feeling good?
Yeah.
I want to stand up and stretch a little bit. I want to stand up and stretch a little bit.
Just up there.
Right? Been there for a while. Just stretch it on out, stretch your legs out. Yeah. All right. So we're going to continue with our program. Like I said, we have about another 30 minutes left. Did they pass the buckets already?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought I heard somebody say no. Somebody say no? We'll hit you again. And don't forget to hit the bucket again when you leave out. You know, these programs, they cost money. So Allah will bless you if you can help with a blessing. And don't forget to get your certificate. See Imam before your certificate for the program today. And don't forget to get your apples when it's time to leave. Okay, at this point I'd like to call for Dr. Haitham Eid. He is the director for the Museum Studies program here at Southern University of New Orleans. Dr. Haitham Eid.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to say it again. Assalamu alaikum. Well, I'm bringing you greetings of peace from Southern University of New Orleans and from motherland, from Egypt, where I was born and raised. It's wonderful to be among this wonderful group of smart, intelligent, and inspiring people. I've learned a lot. I did not prepare a speech. I'm just sharing some thoughts with you that together we can make a change. Together as a community, we can make a change. There is a lot of injustice out there, and only together we can change this injustice and make the future for our children much better than the reality we live right now. I just want to share with you that across from this building there is a new construction. In this new construction, we're gonna have a new museum, Sunu Museum. The entire second floor of the building, which is a huge building, if you look at it, it's a huge building. The entire second floor gonna be for a museum, offices for museum studies, and the Center for African and African American Studies, where Dr. Clyde Robertson gonna have his unit in this building. So this is something we're very excited about. And let me tell you why I'm very excited about it. Museums and cultural institutions create narrative, national narrative, about who we are as a nation, where we came from, and the issues we care about in terms of race, in terms of equality, in terms of social justice. And unfortunately, as minority in the United States, we do not have much to say in these institutions because we do not have qualified individuals to work in these institutions. That's why the work that Sister Okolo Rashid is doing in Jackson, Mississippi, very crucial. I've known Sister Okolo for more